Today, I'm sitting with Tom. Tom, what do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Day-to-day basis. I wake up, have my coffee, kick back, then I go uptown and I take care of a few of the places that I work for here in Sandpoint.
Uh-huh. I I met you a while ago, and describe your living quarters because it's kind of like you're homeless, but you're not. You have a nice little setup.
Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful for the pastor of the church I go to right here at Grace of Sandpoint,
Uh-huh.
and he saw me sleeping in there one time. You know, when the whole place was like wide open. I mean, the whole front door has been wide open for the last 12 years. Well, I just kind of put a box in the way, found some cushions, laid them down, and he walked in on me and saw me laying there, flipped me a $20 bill, and kind of checked the sides. You know, he was looking at the sides on his way out. And next day, he got some brothers from the church upstairs, and they framed it in. And he then brought me down a bed, a dresser, rocking chair, and such. And yeah, I've got this like mini studio kind of thing, like a
Mm-hmm.
little mini studio apartment.
It's pretty nice. It's
It is
pretty
pretty
nice.
nice. It is very comfortable. It's warm, safe, dry.
Yeah, and winter coming up. How do you prepare for the cold and stay warm in there?
Well, you just stay inside, and that's
Yeah.
how you stay warm. You know, except for the times that I'm out, clearing some sidewalks and this and this and that. But it's comforting to know that when I am done with that and I'm wet and I'm kind of chilly and whatnot, it's nice to be able to go in, peel my clothes off, and get into something a little drier. And I've got a nice warm environment, and it's comfortable. You know.
Hmm. So let's go into who is Tom. When did you start life? What was your first memories?
My first memories was as I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I had a real father who was very, very abusive.
Uh-huh.
He beat me and my sister, locked us away in basements. Vaguely, everything that I remember of my memory, we were just locked away. He didn't feed us. He was just always abusive, very, very abusive, and he was just like a raging alcoholic.
Hmm.
And that continued until some ladies in the neighborhood in Minneapolis, Minnesota, saw this kind of conduct going on, went to health and welfare, which it was at that time health and welfare. Um, uh, they went to health and welfare and had said and told health and welfare what they had been witnessing. Well, health and welfare wasn't happy with the couple of ladies that walked in, so the ladies got pretty butthurt about that, went back into their neighborhood, and then a whole slew of old ladies hit health and welfare and said, "Look, you've got two children that are getting their butt kicked. You
Yeah.
know, we are witnessing this. We're witnessing their father locks them away in a shed, and when they're not in the shed, he beats them." And we hardly ever see the kids because they're always locked away, you know. And then when we do see them, they're being abused, and they're frail, they're skinny, they're just beat up and whatnot. And the next thing I remember is I remember being on an airplane. I remember being on an airplane, sitting next to my sister, and then next to my sister was kind of a heavy-set lady from obviously health and welfare that boarded the plane with us to make sure that we got to Southern California, where my mom had actually met a guy right straight out of the Air Force and got remarried, and then she got re-awarded us. She got us back.
Yeah.
She had lost us for like 3 years. And, you know, she was off doing drugs and doing this and doing that, and she was doing all those things because my real father was beating on her. So she just ended up leaving the house, and she kind of, in a way, she abandoned us.
Hmm.
In a sense, she abandoned us, you know. But then she redeemed herself by getting married to kind of another violent guy. I mean, my other stepdad, straight out, he was just big muscle bound dude, and and so on and so forth. You know, I mean, and we had a little place in California, just about a couple blocks from the school. That's all we had to walk. Was just about a block and a half. It was just straight up the street. You know, this school that we went to and whatnot. As I say, he was really no better. He drank. We know because both my sister and I, one of our jobs was squashing his beer cans. We had to squash all the beer cans
Yeah.
so that he can get more in a sack, so that he can take them to the California recycling because you got quite a bit of money,
Yeah, it's based on pounds.
based on pounds.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So, how did that affect you going to school? Like, how did you, kind of pretend like you were a normal kid?
Well, it was kind of hard. I was more of a I was never really, really, really good in school, even from the get. I mean, I flunked the first grade.
Uh-huh.
I mean, who in the world flunks the first grade? I mean, that's probably the easiest math work or any of the schoolwork that you can do. I was just too busy eating paste and everything else because it tasted good. It tasted like, yeah, I mean, I was just munching on the paste. I did okay in PE, but my attention and my expertise in school was just not good. I just didn't have I couldn't understand what the teacher was talking about as far as school work,
Hmm.
so I was never really good. And it wasn't really until later on in life that I was like more hands on. If you show me, I got
Yeah.
it. You show me, I got it. If you give me a book, I'll be there forever. I'll just be there for a long time. And I'm not going to really get nowhere, and
Hmm.
whatnot. As far as the other kids, I mean, I had a little handful of friends that sort of, I guess, like me, I suppose, if you would. And then there was just that other group that didn't and whatnot. And I just learned to cope with it and whatnot. But all the physical stuff that went on in the house did impact my school because my mind would drift and all I could keep thinking is that school's going to be over with at some point in this day, right around 3ish or 2:33, and then it's oh boy, a block and a half up the street, which was like walking the Green Mile. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it was like. It was like walking the Green Mile, the Green Mile, the Green Mile, walking the Green Mile. It was just like what's in store when we get home. I mean, what's going to happen, what's going to take place, and all that. So
Did you graduate high school?
with a GED,
Uh-huh.
in which I cheated. I had to cheat to do that. I give a guy about 3, 4 packs of cigarettes because I was in an institution at that time, and in the institution I was in, it was called St. Anthony, Idaho. It's down in southern Idaho on the southeast corner, like if you're like Button, Wyoming. Basically, you're right close to Wyoming, not very far from the Wyoming border, and Ricks College, which is in Rexburg, Idaho. Ricks
Hmm.
College is where I had to take the test. That's where we had studied at the compound in the institution I was in. And all they had was a little wooden 4-foot fence. So I mean, if you wanted to leave, you could, but
Yeah.
then you'd be caught and brought back.
It's
Or
like, where are you gonna go?
yeah, like where are you going to go? And the town of St. Anthony is very, very small.
Yeah.
It's just a really, really small town, and
Uh-huh.
whatnot. And so I ended up, cheating my way through, because at that given time, I couldn't get a job anywhere unless it was like mowing a lawn or this, that. I could get cash. But any kind of like actual job in a restaurant or this and that, you had to have a degree. You had either had to have a degree or have some kind of diploma. GED was sufficient enough
Yeah.
as far as a graduation, so
How old are you?
right now I'll be 62 January 10th.
Okay.
That's coming up. I'll be 62 years old.
So, is your parents still alive? And so this is a loaded question. So do you forgive your parents? And did you ever like have a, quote unquote normal relationship after your adolescence and adult and just through your adult life? Has it ever been normal and okay? And have you forgiven them?
Well, as it is right now, because I'm going to Grace Church right now and whatnot, I'm asking God for that kind of forgiveness so that I can, and I believe I'm coming around to that. My real father and my stepfather both had their share of sins, any
Mhm.
more than my sins. I didn't really live a good life. I was kind of a self-willed, run riot rebel without a clue.
Mhm.
basically, rebel without a clue, not a cause.
Yeah.
I'm not James Dean here, but I can't really say really normal because it was just kind of an abnormal kind of family. My mom drank. We all did. All of
Mhm.
us drank, and then later, I started smoking pot, and I got into drugs, and then my sister got into drugs, and my brother, well, he kind of dabbled a little bit, and whatnot. My mom didn't; she just sort of drank, and
Mhm.
so did my stepdads. As far as forgiveness, like I say, I'm working on that,
Mhm.
and I'm asking God all the time for that kind of grace. I mean, if God can forgive me of my sins, then I need therefore to forgive them of theirs. What was right of what he did? No, of course it wasn't. You don't beat on a child.
Mhm.
You don't beat on kids that are 3 years old, 3.5, 4 years old, and lock them away and starve them. It's wrong. It's just not right. But then that was just the way his sin went
Yeah.
in
W-
his life.
When you were a kid, did you know that was wrong? Because you don't, it's like you don't know anything else. So did you know it was wrong, or is just kind of more like until you started to get a little older, was it just more like this is kind of what life is at that young
Well,
age?
kind of a little of both, kind of a little bit, but there was just that sense of, you know that when you're in pain, that can't be right.
Mhm.
Because I felt and I still remember those very pains, his punches,
Yeah.
his abusiveness. I mean, I came upstairs. I think what was it one time? I came upstairs for something because I was downstairs in the bay. I came upstairs and the door happened to be open. And I opened it and I was hollering. It was dark up there, and I was wandering around the house and whatnot. And then I finally went back to the staircase, and then he got up and I guess came to the kitchen. And then as soon as he came, he just pushed me down the stairs. He just says, "What are you doing up here?" Boom!
Mhm.
And down I went. Down I just toppled all the way down the stairs. And then I just heard this door slam, and whatnot. And yeah,
Why do you think he was like that?
don't know really. Just his sin. I mean, that's a question
Yeah.
I can't answer because I
Straight
don't
up.
know why he was like that any more than when I grew up in my sins.
Yeah.
Why did I break into the places I did? Why did I do the things that I did? Well, I can answer that. Most of it was alcohol driven.
Yeah.
Alcohol gives you permission to do the things and very stupid things that you wouldn't do when you're sober.
I like that. That's a good way of saying it. Gives you permission. I like that.
Yeah. It gives you permission. I mean, when I'm sober, if you and I were walking down the street,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna go, "Hey, bro, let's go take a crap in this lady's yard."
Yeah.
Drunk, possibly.
This sounds like the best time.
It
Yeah.
sounds like the best time to just go ahead and relieve yourself
Yeah.
on her doorstep. I mean, that's what alcohol will do. And I believe that alcohol drove him to do the same thing. I mean, if it did that to me, then the alcohol got a hold of him, but created an abusive side to him.
Mhm.
He just couldn't handle it, any more than I could handle my alcohol, any more than I could mine,
Mhm.
because I know I can't, so.
So, what? How did you get into drugs? When did that start?
Well, peers.
Uh huh.
Peers. When you're growing up, I mean,
Totally.
you start running away from home. You don't want to be there, because of the rules, of this and the that. You're tired of being told what to do, this, and that, and then it gave me even more permission because those two were part of the Eagles Club when they were right downtown here. The Eagles, right up here,
Yeah.
right up the street here. When it was downtown, they were members of it, so they were down there getting like pretty effed up every night, and I could hear them when they come home. I mean, the door would slam, there would be holes in the wall. My mom would be slapping him in the face and knocking his glasses off, and I mean, she got mean,
Mhm.
and so it was like, man, I don't want to be around all this, But then I had my own set of drinking that I was doing, but I was doing it with my homeboys,
Yeah.
and what. Now, right down the street here, where Finn and McDonald was a place called Taft's.
Mhm.
Well, they still have apartments up there, which were known as brothels at one time,
Totally.
and whatnot. But there was an apartment up there, and I had a handful of friends that I knew that lived up there, and they let me crap out there. They let me stay and crap out there, and whatnot. And that's when I first started smoking weed and this and this and that. And then, of course, Steve Stevenson, when he was alive, I'd go over to his house, which is over just off Main Street right there, Main and about Ella,
Uh huh.
Main and Ella, And when he was living with his grandma, and he's going, "Hey man, you want to try this, man? Too, dude, man, check this out." And
Yeah.
he started messing with the acid, and then the meth, or not the meth. There was no meth at that time. It was crank. It
Yeah.
was crank at that time. Crank and the heroin, and got into the opiates, and then it was shortly after that that I realized that none of that stuff was good for me. I
Uh-huh.
didn't do real well on those things. So it was relatively easy for me to drop that stuff.
So you never really got strung out on any
Not
of
really.
those?
I've gotten sick off of it, coming off of all
Yeah.
those things, but I just never really went on a real all-time, all-out opiate runner or an all-out heroin runner. I think the max I did heroin was 3 months, and I paid for it in that 3 months. I was sick, I couldn't sleep, I was not sicker than a dog,
Yeah.
and just the same way with alcohol and or pills or opiates. You're going to get the same thing. You're going to have that side effect,
Hmm.
and so I drifted away from all that. It was alcohol and pot were the two things that hung on in my life. And I worshipped pot at that time because pot didn't seem to bother me that much. I could function, I could work, I could do this. Alcohol, on the other hand, well, once I get started, I drink to get drunk. There is no moderation in Tom's world or discipline in Tom's world when it comes to alcohol. None. I go for broke. Once I have one, I'm going to have a dozen, and I'm going to keep going until I basically do pass out. It's
Yeah.
basically where it's at.
Um, Sorry, this guy's vacuuming threw me off. So, so what is it like to be an alcoholic? That's such a broad question, but what's your tale? What's your take on alcoholism?
Well, my take on alcohol is like, even like for me, is a Polaroid moment of a picture of an asshole is really what it is.
Okay.
It really, all you are is a Polaroid moment.
Yeah.
Nothing really good ever stems from alcohol. And like I say, it gives you permission to say things, or sometimes you drink so doggone much you don't realize what you said. I've been in those situations before where I've been, hit and punched and beat up on because they'd say, "Well, how dare you talk to my woman like that?" I mean, what did I would say, "What did I say? I didn't say anything wrong, did I? I don't remember saying anything wrong." You sort of kind of blip out, mentally. And then, I mean, I got to drinking so much that I would have alcohol seizures. I'd be walking around, and then the next time I wouldn't be walking around. I'd be laying down someplace, and I don't get no warnings about them. They just come, and you're down. And then when I come to, I wonder why I'm sitting on the ground. I'm just thinking, maybe I just got tired and decided to take a break or
Yeah.
something. I'd be like wondering how I got in the position. Or there'd be times I'd look in the mirror and see like cuts on my eye or scrapes on my elbow. And I wonder, well, what did I do? When did I do that? Did I bump something?
Mhm.
Did I hit something? I don't remember hitting anything. I don't remember hitting anything or scraping anything. I don't remember anything, anyways. And it would just be, you're gone. That part's deleted, all out.
Yeah.
That part's all
Totally.
deleted completely. You don't remember anything. You just remember where you were before, drunk, and then when you get up and you go, and you resume as if nothing happened.
Yeah.
You basically just resume like nothing ever happened. I've had a lot of people tell me, "Dude, you felt like a tree. You just dropped like a doggone tree." I said, "What? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I've been with you guys talking to you all the time." "No, dude, you fell like a tree." I said, "Dude, no, I did not."
Mhm.
"Dude, yes, you did. The ambulance are on their way.
Yeah.
I mean, they're on their way. We had to call the ambulance. We thought you were having a heart attack. You were
Yeah.
flopping around, and it's like, what? And so that's kind of what it's like for me. I mean, it's just me and booze. As far as others and booze, I mean, I can't judge or characterize what they're like. Some are good social drinkers. Some can. Some can drink socially, and some are fighters. Some are bullshitters. Some are this. Some are that. I mean,
Mhm.
Tom is just like all of the above. I'm a bullshitter. You get 10 foot tall and 10 foot tall and bulletproof. That's what alcohol just promotes you to be something you're really not.
Yeah.
Really, it just promotes you to be in something you're really not. And whatnot. But alcohol also, what it did for me was to open up and speak. Unfortunately, it doesn't come out right, but it helped me assert myself to communicate with others because of my real fathers and whatnot, I was afraid to open my mouth because every time I opened my mouth in the house, it seemed like I said something wrong or this and that's why I was being abused. And I thought that all the abuse came from what I said or said something in the house or whatnot. So it was just like I isolated within myself, like, okay, if I talk, I'm going to get hit, so I'm not going to open up. The heck with it. I'm just not going to say nothing.
Yeah.
That way I don't get hit. Just shut up. You shut up, you don't get hit. And then alcohol would make it so that I could speak openly and this and that and speak freely. And then that's just the biggest thing. And a lot of people would say, man, this guy gets going. He doesn't shut up. Well, that's because I was so quiet for so long and I didn't say nothing for nobody. And then when I finally get to open up, yeah, I've got a lot to say. But I was afraid to say anything because I was afraid of getting beat, So that's what alcohol did for me until the alcoholism took over. And, I started working on my body, my mind, my chemistry, and whatnot, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, totally. You know, these are like one of the questions I was talking about, I guess you could say, is like, what was your rock bottom? What was your lowest point? That have you ever had suicidal thoughts or attempts?
Oh yeah. I've had both. I've had both attempts and suicidal thoughts, and they mostly stem from when I am drinking. See, you set your mindset to where I'm going to grab whether I'm homeless or not, and I have been for the last 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, without this place downstairs, here, this little room I'm in, I would still be homeless right now. I would be homeless.
Yeah, I wouldn't really say you're homeless, to be honest. Like, you got a really nice setup.
Houseless.
Yeah, you're houseless.
I'm houseless.
Uh-huh.
And, I'm more like houseless.
Uh-huh.
But my rock bottom is that when I was in Bullhead City, Arizona, I was drinking vodka, and I went on a pretty good runner on that vodka. Well, I ended up having a seizure that really put me out this time. I don't remember, to this day, I don't remember where. I know I was in Bullhead, and I know I was drinking vodka.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember if I was in the park, because right across the highway, 95, down in Bullhead City, right across 95, is the desert, the Mojave Desert. That's where we camp. A lot of us. Everybody has their own little spot out there. There's plenty of desert to pick from, and it just, I don't remember where I was at. That's all been deleted. All I know is that I ended up in ICU.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up in ICU. I don't remember being handled. I don't remember lights. I don't remember rides. I don't remember ambulance. I don't remember anything. It was shortly after that I came around, and the lady upstairs went nuts and go, "Oh my gosh, he's moving," and she got on the phone, and then I had everybody and their mother up there in that room, and then this little cutie nurse put a note on my chest. Right before she left, and I read it, and she just says, "Man, why are you doing this to yourself? You're just such a good-looking man, and you're still kind of young. Why are you killing yourself? The doctor was only going to try this one last time to bring you around. My heart stopped 4 times.
Yeah.
It had stopped.
Totally.
4 times.
Yeah.
It quit.
Uh-huh.
And he wasn't going to try a 5th. And so I guess the 4th time, somehow I took hold. Or something took hold.
Divine intervention.
Divine intervention. And I went to treatment at a Hillside Treatment Center in Prescott, Arizona. And then I did really good for 3 years. And then I went out again. And then it wasn't shortly after that my mind just sort of went, man, what are you doing? Dude, you were just on a hospital bed not too long ago, just a few years ago, man. What are you doing? And then I ended up getting 13 years of sobriety.
Yeah.
And then I achieved 13 years of sobriety. That was my bottom.
Uh-huh.
When COVID broke out, then I kind of started dabbling a little bit because I lost my apartment. I didn't have no more jobs because those were all taken away because of COVID. First Street was tore up, from wall to wall. It was tore up. That was most of my business was on First Street. That was all tore up. All I had left was car washing. Well, my rent was $700 a month.
Yeah.
I was only generating $160. There was just no feasible way I was going to make, and I had a nice studio apartment right there on 2nd and Superior, right on that intersection.
Mm-hmm.
I had a nice, on the bottom floor too. I was in number 2, Had a nice place. I had it decked out nice too. I had it
Hmm.
nice. I had a lot of nice plants. I mean, I just thought, I've always been meticulous like that. How my house looks, neat, clean. Ever since I was a little boy, I've made my bed. I've always made my bed. I always picked up my toys. I always did this and I always did that. Mom didn't have to motivate me to do that. I did it. I got up and made my bed, which is automatic.
Yeah.
Almost like military. At a young age. So
Um. So you mentioned that you have toys. So do you have any fond memories with your parents? Like good, like going to Disneyland or some shit like that?
Disneyland was one.
Yeah.
Disneyland, Knott's Berry Farm, and the San Diego Zoo were probably my most fondest, most good, vivid memories because I still remember. I remember having the San Diego Zoo book of
Yeah.
all the animals that are in the place and all about the San Diego Zoo. And then right next door was all the snakes and tarantulas and all that. I forgot what it was called. Something. It was called something, but it was real close to the San Diego Zoo. It was just where all the snakes are, all these different kinds of snakes and whatnot. And Disneyland was another good memory. Outside of that, my real father didn't do with anything besides beat me. My second stepfather did about the same thing, beat me, didn't really play football with me, and the school was just right up the street. There was plenty of ball field, all kinds of ball
Yeah.
field to throw a baseball, kick a football, because I was really into football at that time. I couldn't get him out of his chair. He had his hand wrapped around a beer, and of course at that time with the TV the way it is, when it was so way back then, we didn't have remotes. We were the remotes.
Yeah.
Me and my sister Cindy were remote. Change it to channel 11. Okay, Tom, over to 12.
Hmm.
Okay, over to 32. We were the remotes. And that's really all we were good for. Changing the channel, get out of the house, crush beer cans. It was pretty much my life.
Hmm.
There was. My mom did more in
Did she
trying
show
to,
you affection, like
yeah,
hugs and
more
kisses?
affection than any of my dads did.
Hmm.
And try to put him in place. Well, one day, she had told Jim that, hey, look, you're being rough on the kids. Well, he socked her in the eye and gave her a black eye. That very night, I grabbed his 300 Savage Magnum out of the closet, and it was so stinking heavy because I was so young.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, okay, he's going to come through the front door, so I'll just take this big old gun and I'll prop it up on the top part of the couch, and I use that as a prop. Now I can hold the gun up,
Of course.
and I knew how to aim, and I
Yeah.
knew how to take the bolt action. I knew how to load a shell,
Yeah.
and then all I had to do, and I waited. Well, my mom come through the door, and I almost pulled that trigger. I come real. I was dead set to kill him.
Yeah.
I was going to kill him for what he did to my mom, blackened her eye like that. I was going to kill him.
Hmm. So why do you think he didn't come through that door?
I'm not too sure. Another
Yeah.
divine thing, maybe. I think God knew that I was pretty serious. I
Yeah.
mean, even as a little boy, I had that gun. I was loaded, and I had the trigger. The safety was off. I was just waiting to see his face. All I
Uh-huh.
wanted to do was see that muscle-bound face, and I was going to splatter him all over that front porch with that at point, almost damn near point blank,
Yeah.
from where the barrel of that gun to that front door was. I couldn't have missed. There was just no way I would have missed.
Do you wish that that did happen, or are you glad that it didn't
I'm
happen?
glad it didn't,
Uh-huh.
in a sort of a sense. Because really the beatings went on. He beat me bad with a belt buckle. He
Yeah.
didn't use the belt this time. He used the belt buckle.
Yeah.
And I remember I had to walk up to school the next day, and that day we had to dress down for PE because we had soccer out on the main field. Well, I was so cut up from that belt buckle, from the legs, my back, my shoulders, chest. I had skin fragments all over my bed when he got done. I mean, I was black and blue
Yeah.
everywhere with little scars of skin where that belt buckle dug into my skin and tore it out everywhere, all up and down my legs, my back, chest, side, and the PE teacher told me to dress down. I said, really, all in all, I don't really feel that good. I was trying to develop a lie that just didn't really work out all that well. I just said, I don't feel good. No, well, you need to dress down. I said, well, I don't really want to dress down. Well, I can suspend you and expel you from school. And that scared me because, I was young, and if I went home with an expel and I got expelled, that would have been another beating on
Yeah.
top of the one I had just received the night before, and so I dressed down, and then the PE teacher freaked when he saw me. He goes, "Who did this? Who did this to you?" And I just said, no one, really." He goes, "Well, you don't look like that when no one does nothing, And then they traced it back to him, and to this day, I don't really know what kind of repercussions he suffered or what had happened. I don't really know and don't remember. So,
When was the last time you talked to your parents?
the last time I talked to my parents was probably, I'm going to guess, right at about 10 years ago. That's when my mom died. My mom died of dementia. My stepdad, Earl Bourne, died 5 years earlier, and that's what really agitated my mom's dementia. After my mom had lost him, she just sort of lost it. She just sort of lost it. And then later on, we found out that she started suffering from dementia. She started doing weird and crazy things. She would just drop her pants right in the middle of the living room and pee on the floor. And she was beating her car up, getting in little wrecks, and she maxed out all her credit cards. She was like $72,000 in debt in credit
Wow.
cards. She had racked up a ridiculous amount. My brother Steve, my half brother, took them all away from her, and then they put her on Profena while she was still half dementia, half normal. Until dementia really got a hold of her, and then she was put in a home, just off Hayden Avenue in Coeur d'Alene, down Hayden Avenue, and she was put in a home, and I think she lived there probably at a year best before before she lost her life, and whatnot. So
What about your dad?
my dad, my real father,
Real dad.
my real father ended up in St. Paul Hospital because of the tumors that my sister had. It was called neurofibromatosis. She had tumors in her head, back, neck, spine, and whatnot. My real father had the same thing, and so I'm pretty sure that by now he's deceased,
Mm-hmm.
because my sister is, and she's a lot younger than my dad was,
Yeah.
so, and they killed her. Those tumors killed her. And my mom, like I say, she's passed away because of dementia. That took her life. And Earl Bourne, the last guy that she was with, when she went nuts after losing, she lost. He tipped a beer back and kept going back. A year after his retirement from the State Highway Department, that's where he worked. He started in Sandpoint, right here, for the State Highway Department, clearing roads and highways and all the highways. And then he got promoted, and then his office was in Coeur d'Alene, just off 95. So we had a place in Post Falls. He had to move to Post Falls, move to a closer place. A year after his retirement, he had a heart attack, basically.
Wow.
So
What about your brother?
my brother is somewhere, the last I heard, in Albany, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand he's not with his wife no more. His wife was Annette Decker, and I don't know if they're still together, got back together, apart, where he's at, did he move? I really don't know. I haven't heard from him in over 15 years.
Wow, 15 years.
I haven't even seen him or heard of him.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
So with everything we're talking about, how do you view love, and have you ever felt love?
Not really. I really don't know if I've really ever really honestly felt really love. And really right now I can't even really explain what it would really even feel like, really, because there's so much callousness in my life and scars. And
You have a kid though, right? Don't you have a kid?
I have a daughter,
Yeah.
Caitlin Hope,
Uh-huh.
and she's right now she's 21. This June she'll be 22. She's got a boyfriend, and she moved to Indiana. That's why I haven't seen her around Sandpoint here. I just talked to my former wife probably 2 weeks ago and found this out. I was up visiting some friends right across the street from where I used to live, over up on Larch. I got some buddies over there that I visit, and she just happened to be standing in the driveway, and I just said, "Where's Caitlin? I haven't seen Caitlin around. Usually she's at Starbucks or at Larson's or whatnot." "Oh, well, she's in Indiana with her boyfriend." And I thought, "Oh, well, okay," because I was going to give her my car. I was going to go ahead and just give her my car.
Mm-hmm.
I figured I'm not going to drive it. I can't afford it. I've got it all fixed up. I was just going to give it to her and bless her with it, is what I was going to do. But she's not here. She's already got a car, and then he's got a truck. So and they're in Indiana. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What was it like trying to raise a kid with being an alcoholic?
It wasn't because I wasn't around her.
Oh, okay.
So really, all in all, when I first got to be around her, I mean, I was with her when she was 2, and then again at 4, and then again at 6.
Hmm.
And then I saw her again when she was 12 and 14. But, when I walked her home from farm in Stidwell, a mom, my former wife says, "You know who that is? Is that Dad?" And she goes, "Yes, that's your dad."
Hmm.
We really don't really, all in all, really know each other because I wasn't around.
Hmm.
And she never really got to experience any of my alcoholism. She just heard all the horror stories about it, is all. Some of it made up, some
Yeah.
of it actual truth. Some actual truth, a lot of it was made up. My wife liked to elaborate and exaggerate,
Yeah.
on a lot of things and fill her head full of just horror stuff about me. A lot, like I say, some true, some not.
Yeah.
And whatnot. And we got to hang out a little bit. I got to take her to Panhandler Pie probably on 3 of my birthdays. We split the meal that they give me, and
Mhm.
I'd let her order. And then she'd always have the little mudslide dessert. I'd let her have that. And then we would just split my meal, and then just get together and stuff. But, really all in all, even in those encounters, we really don't know each other because I never got to be around her. We weren't around each other, so she didn't know me as Dad. I
Yeah.
was just sort of foreign to her.
What were
know.
you doing?
Huh?
What were you doing
I
during
was
the?
out running around the country and this
Uh-huh.
and this and that, and that's when I was in my sobriety, though. I
Uh-huh.
was in my sobriety at that time, and she didn't know that. It wasn't until I came up that I told her that I had X amount of sobriety now. I don't drink no more, and whatnot. Just as of like right now, I'm in my sobriety again.
So, if I can ask you this, so how come in your sobriety you wouldn't try to raise your daughter versus being an alcoholic? Because I can see that, but being sober, you running around the country
Right.
doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Not to be rude.
No. It's not rude. It's just my wife really didn't want me up at the house, so she was keeping me away. So it really made it hard for me to get next to her
Hmm.
and get to know her. I mean, it took everything tooth and nail to get her to go for a walk with me or let me to take her out to on my birthday and this. I told my wife, I'll bring her back home. Don't worry about it. She's fine. I'm not going to kidnap her. For crying out loud, she's my daughter. I mean, I just want to spend some time with her,
Hmm.
but, because of the scars of our relationship, it had an impact on our relationship because I wasn't allowed to be up there. They put a restraining order on me, so I couldn't be up there to be around her, to raise her, or to be with her,
Yeah.
so that made it difficult, so it just made it difficult, I mean, we got a restraining order. You can't be around her, you can't be up there at the house. The only way I could catch her is downtown, and then she's usually with her friends, so to try to jerk her away from them,
Yeah.
you can't do that. You can't do that either. I
Yeah.
can't rob her of her life of something that I screwed off because of my alcoholism, and I
Hmm.
did that. I screwed that off, instead of raising her like I should have and stopped drinking like I should have and stayed with my wife, which just wasn't going to happen. It just we just jumped into it too fast, and it was just one of those little things. The first year was great, the other 3 were hell. That was just the way it went. And then just right at the very tail end, when our relationship was just pretty much dissolved, boom, she conceived,
Yeah.
and then here comes little Caitlin.
Hmm.
Well, I wasn't no longer allowed to be around. And then so years went by, and she got to know Mom, but there was no Dad.
Hmm.
There was no Dad present. So.
So what would you do hitchhiking? You gotta have some cool stories hitchhiking.
There's some cool, some not.
Yeah.
I've been with some maniacs. I've been with some good people that's helped out. It went kind of both ways. All in all, I did okay. Hitchhiking nowadays is a little harder because people are scared to death. The I-5 killer, the Green River, the this, the that, and the,
Yeah. You ever experienced anything weird? You ever been raped or anything?
No, never been raped or anything like that. I mean, I got into a guy that was drinking straight vodka and driving about like 90 miles an hour across Montana, and That was a little scary.
I think my stop's right up here.
And it was right up there. There was just like this convenience store out in the middle of no place in the world. It was like God put it there. You
Yeah.
know, everything else is just like sagebrush, this flat, ugly, miles before the next town, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, is this little place. He goes, "Oh, I got to pull over here. I need to pick up a magazine," and of course he come out with another bottle, and he had another one under his seat, and that's where my stop was. Well, I thought you were headed up to Deer Lodge. Well, I do want to go to Deer Lodge, but I want to get to Deer Lodge in one piece. You
Yeah.
know, you're driving, you know, you're not prudent no more or safe. You know, to me, you know, I'll walk. You know, I'll just walk. And I ended up finding a place to camp out because it was dark anyways. You know, I just camped like right off the hip of that store. You know, that way in the morning I can get up and have coffee and then continue. You know, then I
Yeah.
can continue my journey because at least I can get a cup of coffee. If I kept walking down this highway, first of all, I would have been eaten up by a billion mosquitoes.
Yeah.
You know, and two, I would have been walking out in the middle of just nowhere. After that store, it was pretty much out there. It was nowhere before we got to the store and nowhere after that store. It was just like God put it there, you know, for this guy to stop and for me to get out. I'd had enough of this
Straight up.
guy. You know, he was swerving all, you know, all over the place. I just said, man, if you're going to take your life, you do it on your own time, but don't take me with you.
Yeah.
You know, so.
You ever been
eh.
to Vegas? Are you a gambler? Is that one of your?
No, I'm not a gambler. I did my share of it when I was there. Not very prosperous in that area. That's why Vegas is what it is.
That's true.
You know, I mean, I walked out of Las Vegas 7 times. You know, it's a long walk. That's like 26 miles.
Totally.
That's like from downtown to out on I-15 is a long ways. That's a long walk. Straight
Yeah.
out in Las Vegas Boulevard. Straight out. And you just keep right on going until you get past Nellis Air Force Base, the truck stop, which is 5 miles up. And, you know, that's 5 miles up the Las Vegas highway.
And you're in the desert.
You're in the desert.
Yeah.
By that time, you're in the. After you get past Nellis, you're pretty much deserty. You know,
Yeah.
there's a couple little buildings. You're way out of the casino area. Those are way back there. You're out of that. You know, but there ain't too much, and then it's pretty much all desert after that. All desert until you get to I-15,
Yeah.
and then next stop Salt Lake. You know, if you're going north, next stop Salt Lake, and then
Yeah.
next stop after that Butte, Montana. You know, Butte, Montana.
Yeah.
And then you got to come back west.
What's your favorite place you've been to?
Oh, I don't know. Let's see here. One of my favorites, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying to remember here. Where my sister lived before she died of all those tumors and what. Whidbey Island wasn't too bad. I didn't mind Whidbey Island.
Where's that?
Was a cute. That's Oak Harbor, Whidbey Island. It's just it's like a little island off the coast of the Mukilteo. It's like off of 405 Mukilteo, or just outside, just off Everett, Montana, or Everett, Washington. Everett, Washington. You got to take a ferry. You know, I mean, if you're over by Mukilteo, it's a ferry. If you come down through Deception Pass, Mount Vernon, then you can drop right into Oak Harbor. I mean, right into Oak Harbor. You know, you'll have one little place, and then the next town is Oak Harbor. If you start from the bottom of the island, you go through one place, then there's Coopville, another place, Oak Harbor.
Yeah.
You know, so it's an old naval base island. It's all Navy. Everything's Navy. Naval stuff over there. You know, everything's naval. And the island itself is like 90 miles long. It goes from the coast, water, that the ferry takes you over, and then it goes up to Mount Vernon. You go across Deception Pass, and then you end up in Mount Vernon, and then up in that part of Washington.
Off the top of your head, with no stress, what do you think the coolest thing you've ever done, seen in your life, or just hitchhiking? Because I mean, hitchhiking across the country, I feel like that's a pretty cool life.
Well, I mean, it was
Ups and downs for sure.
It had its ups and downs, but I don't know. The coolest thing, I guess, was the coolest thing was when I was young, I got picked up, and these guys weren't going very far, but they just swerved over and picked me up like 5 minutes after I got dropped off. Left me with a big old bag of weed and a whole bunch of beer and this and that, and some pretty cool stories, you know, in a little short span before they broke off and went left, you know, and whatnot. I mean, that was kind of cool. And I met some people in some of the cities and towns I've been in that were pretty cool, that were pretty nice. But I've also met my horror side of things. I've been in some pretty, I've been all over in some sticky cities: Sacramento, Marysville, Oroville, Stockton. Places you don't sleep real good. You just sleep pretty light.
How
You know,
come?
well, just in the nature of what they are, those kind of cities, you don't sleep real good.
Uh-huh.
There's just too much,
Like,
violence, and meth, crystal meth. When people are on that, you're just
that's
not
true.
you. I mean, you
Yeah.
don't sleep very, very good because they're predators.
What about cocaine?
Never did cocaine.
You
I
never
smoked it.
done? You
It
smoked.
smoked it once. It just all it did was numb my face. I didn't really see what anybody saw in it. I didn't see
Yeah.
what anybody really saw in that shit, at all. I don't even see what people saw in cocaine, but I guess you have to snort
And
it or
heroin, I feel like, like most, like, it's very common for someone with a background childhood of years to get into heroin, but you weren't really into it.
not really. I ended up sampling, then I went on a 3 month runner,
Uh-huh.
and it's an opiate, it does. It makes you just drift off, this, that, but I don't know. And then you want to do another shot, then a shot, and then you wake up and you want to do a shot, and then it's all about going and getting more, and
Yeah.
ugh.
Yeah, at least alcohol, you kind of, do stuff. You can go, you have the balls to go do some cool shit, quote
Yeah,
unquote cool stuff.
some cool stuff,
Yeah.
some uncool. I mean, the uncool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like I say, depending on what kind of an alcoholic you are, and I'm not a good one, so, you know,
No, totally, totally. So you ever seen any ghosts or aliens out there?
no,
And not in your life at all?
no,
You don't believe in it?
not really.
Uh-huh.
No. No ghosts or aliens. I believe in spirit, and I believe in God's spirit. I believe in that.
Yeah.
I do believe in that. But, UFOs, aliens, this, that. I've never had some little antenna dude come up there and zap me with his little laser, and whatnot, and knock me out and take me aboard a ship and and all that good stuff. No.
Yeah. What do you think deja vu is?
Deja vu is something that you experience, and then you're someplace, and then when it comes up again, it's just like you remembered something, but you don't quite remember, but you do.
Yeah.
Is deja vu.
Why do you think we do that?
I don't know,
Uh-huh.
really. I mean, it could be a thing. It could be a lesson. It could be something that you should pay attention to, maybe, if it come up again. It could be God talking to you. It could be a number of things. It could be a number of things. For me to put my finger on it, and I can't really exactly just pinpoint
Yeah.
deja vu, or why they even call it deja vu, and whatnot. So can't pinpoint it.
Yeah. So with like your life and like all the, you've had a pretty fucked up life, you could say, why do you think that's your life? From like, someone has a great life, they have white picket fence and butter every meal,
Yeah.
and then you have, your life and whatnot. Why do you think just overall, the human experience is like that? Why is there so much variety?
I think a lot of it is that as I learn now, God had a purpose for me, and He still does. I was reaching and grabbing for worldly things. I was into myself, self-seeking, and that's not of God. God wants to be worshipped. He wants to be recognized. He wants you to understand that, hey, look, I sent my son to the cross to die for you. And I want you to acknowledge that and accept that. That's what I need you to accept. For me to get into myself, to do the things that I want to do. I want to go here, or I want to go there. I haven't seen this place. I have never been out of this country. I want to go to Germany, the Netherlands, or this, or
Yeah.
is just not what God wants me to
Yeah.
do. God doesn't want me to. If He wanted me to do those things, I'd be in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's where He wanted me, that's where I'd be. And yeah, I just I was too busy thinking that, building the best stereo, or having a little pad, and, having the right amount of friends. My whole concept of what my wants were and my needs and what I thought that this world meant was warped.
Yeah, you valued your self-worth on external values,
Yeah.
things that don't like eventually have a death date. They
Yep.
don't exist in a sense.
Yep.
Uh, why do you think we're born? Why do you think God chooses us to be born? Right? Why do you think God chooses us to be born?
He
And
has chose us. We didn't choose him. He chose us.
yeah,
Because I often question him on that. Why do I exist? Look at the life I've lived.
yeah,
Look at the kind of life I've lived. I've lied. I've stole. I mean, I've almost killed myself 1,000 times. I mean, as far as like maybe drunk driving or yeah, whatever, And I mean, it just that wasn't his purpose for me. He chose me to give me life, created me in his image, or I would just be nothing right now. I'd just be nothing. There's just the world would be going on like it is, and there's just no Tom. Is all. No, Tom just never existed. Well, Tom does exist, and it's just some people. Some people get it right away when they come to Christ. Bam, they got it. Some. Well, got to get beat up a little bit more. I was just one of those type of guys that had to get beat up a little bit more
hmm
before I realized that I have to come around and ask and pray and do what I'm supposed to be doing and do what is right. And what I'm
yeah,
doing now is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be honoring my Father and going, yeah, I do need to be grateful for what Christ did. He did. He became flesh, walked the earth, suffered everything that we suffer. He felt pain just like I feel pain. He was starved. He walked 40 days and 40 nights in the desert. And then the devil had to tempt him after that, after he was weary, tired, hungry. And every time the devil came at him with something, he quoted God's word. He threw it right back in his face. Even as weary as he was, he threw it right back in his face. And he always quoted God's word. And it just took me a long time to come around
hmm
to finally go, okay, I've learned. Let's see. In the world sucks. I've done this and done that. That sucked. Do I want this and that? No, I do not. Do I want to be grateful for what little things I have down in that room? Yes, I do. Do I want a bunch more stuff in that room? No, I don't. I don't
exactly.
really care about materialistic stuff.
Yeah, because you're now valuing everything of worth internally. Everything that you value is inside of yourself. It's not external. You're being grateful just for the fact of being grateful,
Yep.
whether, God did that or you did that and whatever you want to look at it. That's the, at least in my opinion,
Yeah.
that's how you live a good life. Is it doesn't matter where you are, who you are, and when you are. It's just if you value who you are inside, where you are outside, and whatever I just said, like it's just all internally.
Yeah.
Our society that we live in today is being plagued with the notion that the only wealth, I said this in the coffee shop, I don't think you were there this morning when I said this, but there's more wealth than just financial wealth.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with our world today, at least with my generation, is getting sucked into the idea that if I have the right cars, the right stereo, the right apartment, the right everything, I'll finally be happy and I will finally be loved.
And then you finally won't be.
Yeah.
Because really, all in all that materialistic is not going to buy you one bit of happiness. All it's just going to do is create more chaos
Mm-hmm.
within yourself, because it'll break this. You got to go get another one. You got to do this and do that. I'm looking at the afterlife. I'm looking at that. I'm going to expire.
Uh-huh.
God says this is what's going to happen. If you don't heed to this, this is what's going to happen. And then everything here, and it's big fish eating little fish nowadays.
Straight up.
That's why our town is growing like it is. It's just they think that they're going to come up here, throw their money around, and make this a better world and a better town. For who? You or us?
Well, I love that you brought that up, because I was thinking of you the other day when they put up the condo signs over there,
Oh yeah.
that they're building up the condos, and it's like I see people, and I know two people, you included, that are homeless, and it's like we live in a small town, so obviously our homeless population isn't that big, but it's growing.
Yeah.
My mom goes on walks all the time in the morning, and she sees them, and it's like it's growing, and there's people that are homeless, and like for me, like I can't leave my mom's house, like it's for me to go get an apartment. It's ridiculous. That's financial suicide, you could
It
say.
is financial suicide. There is going to be no way you can do it. First of all our apartments and housing are sucked up.
Yeah.
That's why there's condos coming in. And the condos are what, multi-million dollars?
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, per condo? Come on.
Ridiculous
I
amount.
mean, this area doesn't. I mean, this was just an old hick logging town, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
It's just an old logging town, and they're trying to metropolize a fishbowl.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it.
They are. They're
Yeah.
trying to metropolize a fishbowl, but this place is not made to funnel this kind of traffic.
Yeah.
It's
Totally.
just not made, and it's all selfish. It's them. They said that they're just tired of the chaos. Well, now they're going to come over here and build some more chaos.
Yeah.
They're tired of it, but yet they're not tired of it.
Mhm.
They're city stung. You know, they can't get enough Macy's. They can't get enough Applebee's. They can't get enough of this. They can't have enough fat pigs. They can't have enough of this, and they
Yeah.
can't have enough of that. There's never enough for these people. And I've gone to the point in my life now at almost 62 that I've done just about everything that I could possibly want to do in life. Drugs, this, that, cars, that, hitchhike, this, that, and the other. And I've come to the one conclusion that it all comes down to God. Because everything else is going to
Well,
disappear.
everything dies eventually.
As soon as you drop and
Yeah.
God takes you, you're not even going to be able to take your sandals, let alone your stereo,
Yeah, it's
and
true.
or your wealth. You're
Uh-huh.
not going to be able to take any of that. And in the Bible, it even says so. Don't store up, all your food and this and barns and store up and this and that. Like you got to have all this whole barn full of food because I'm going to be ready. I'm going to be ready, by golly. I'll be able to eat. You don't even know if you're going to be able to breathe your next breath, let alone even touch one can of item in that barn. And when you expire, that barn and that food stays here and goes to waste. It just goes to waste, And then the real life that is ahead of you, you're screwing off because you've invested so much in this one trying to make it happen. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. This life is going to expire, and it's going to happen pretty doggone soon. It's going to happen real soon, and say la vie. With your Porsche and your 6-car garage and your other 19-car garage behind that one with all your classic cars, and if that's where you're in, but yeah.
I like that. No, it's crazy. When you're saying that, I totally had deja vu, and I'm not lying. That is 100% true. So that's kind of weird. That's kind of trippy.
Yeah,
100%.
it is, isn't it, though? Trippy.
It is trippy, right? What do you think of the psychedelic experience? Since we're talking about trippy,
Psychedelics. I only did acid once.
Okay.
In my whole entire life.
You never did shrooms?
Once.
Uh-huh.
I did shrooms once, acid once. And I mean, basically, you look at the snow and you see a bunch of different colors. You laugh your ass off, and you basically just come, whatever, just an idiot with a suit on.
Yeah.
Basically, it's just anything that takes you out of your who God made you to be. Alter that.
Mm-hmm.
You just become a Polaroid moment.
Polaroid moment. I like that. I think that's gonna
Caught on tape.
I think that's gonna be the name of your podcast episode. Is Polaroid moment, because I like that. It's a good way of saying it. So I like to ask this question to Christians: is how come we don't get a second chance? Right?
We do have a second chance coming. The chance right now is now.
Uh-huh. So what I was getting at is once we die and we're judged and we go to hell, how come that's it? There is no other chance. Once we enter hell, there is no going back. That's going to be eternity.
Because from the beginning, since Adam and Eve, they were told to stay, that they could eat of anything in the garden. Anything. They could have anything they want in the entire garden. And I can only imagine that God in the garden at that time had to be pretty massive. It had to be pretty big. Big, beautiful, and I can't even fathom the beauty of what the garden could have looked like. That was before sin. There were no thistles and all this other stuff. Well, when the serpent came along, tempted Adam and Eve, and just says, well, God did not say that you couldn't eat of the tree of life, but if you did, you'd be like him. He altered things,
Mm-hmm.
and it made Eve think, well, then what the heck? I'll just go ahead and take a bite. Well, there you go. And from that point, there was a choice. A choice was being made. And to this day, that choice still stands. That very same choice still stems today. We have a choice to pick who we want to serve. We could either serve the Father of all eyes, or we could serve our wonderful Father in Jesus Christ in heaven and have a glorious life, because we've got a dinner waiting for us. And in my house, in my Father's house, there are many mansions. If it weren't so, I wouldn't have told you so. And I go to prepare one for you. He is actually going to prepare your own mansion.
See, it's very interesting you say that, because we were just talking about how none of that matters. Mansions don't matter. None of that matters. But in
Here
heaven,
on earth,
uh-huh.
here on earth, that's a different realm.
Uh-huh.
That's a whole spiritual, godly realm. That's a gift from Him. That has nothing to do with materialism, because it's not something that we're striving for and we're trying to buy and do this like we are here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference.
It's
Here,
almost just symbols. It's symbolism versus literal. Of symbolism of a mansion.
that is, the mansions that we're going to receive is a gift that He's given us for worshiping Him.
Yeah.
It's not something that in our own greed we're striving for.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
So what do you think the process of death is like? Leaving the body, I mean, I'm sure you've been, like you said, you've been close, the heart on the fourth time, you never had any near-death experiences?
I imagine that was probably the closest I came.
Uh-huh.
But I don't remember being anywhere. There wasn't this or that. Everything was just pretty much like being in a coma.
Yeah.
Almost. Just being like comatose.
Uh-huh.
Really, it was just like I was asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Basically asleep. There was no, I went here, there was this big bright light drawing me anywhere. There was none of that.
Mm-hmm.
There was, none of that. It was just basically, I went to bed and went to sleep, just for a long time is all. I just, fell out for a while, and all that, so. No, I mean, right now we are given a choice, and from the beginning we are given a choice, and it's always been a choice. Which one do you want to choose? Self-worth, self-preservation, self-this, self-that, all that I, me, mine syndrome, the
Totally.
I, me, mine syndrome.
I forgot what I was going to ask you. I'll ask you this. What do you think of the state of our current world? And would you be okay to die right now and be fulfilled with your life? Or do you think there's still more for you here?
Well, I am here sitting with you and talking to you right now, so there is. God is not done with me yet.
Yep.
God's not done. If He was done, I would be done. I would be done.
Mm-hmm.
Our state of the world right now is in very critical state. It's in a very critical state.
Do you think that's the beginning of Revelations?
I believe so.
Uh-huh.
I believe we are. We are entering into we've already had wars, rumors of wars. We've already had them, famine, earthquakes, everything Matthew, Mark, Luke talked about. All three of them touched on that. Touched on all those subjects. There will be rumors of wars, famine, pestilences. Look at the bugs we've had. All the bugs that we've had here. The bees, the bugs.
Yeah.
And whatnot. I know our world's crippled. Our world's very, very crippled right now. It's government-wise, it's crippled. Biden's going to run this. He's going to run it into the ground.
Uh-huh.
And he's doing a really good job of it. I mean, he's just going to really do a good job. However, I'm supposed to be praying for our government, which is awfully hard to do. It's awfully hard to do knowing what he is doing.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as footloose, fancy-free around the world, nah, it's not like that. Not anymore, and it never has been. We were all born into sin. Now it's our job to go to our Father in heaven, Christ Jesus, and ask Him, one, for forgiveness, then get baptized with water and be born again. And and that's really where it all stems. And then you will have your everlasting life.
Mm-hmm.
Then the life that He promised will be an abundant and a very, very fruitful one, sin-free, pollution-free, because this one's going to come to an end, and
Mm-hmm.
He is going to show up on a cloud, like right now.
Yeah.
He ain't going to send you a text. Hey,
Come
this
in
is
5.
Jesus. I'm on my way. I'm on a particular white cloud coming out of the west.
Traffic's looking good.
It's just He's going to show up like right now, and every one of us, no matter whether you want to or not, you're going to hit your knees and you are going to confess. Period. All of us are going to confess, and we're all going to hit our knees. The power of God will put us to our knees. His awesome glory and power is going to put us to our, and we will all confess.
Mm-hmm.
All will confess.
Mm-hmm.
The judgment of what happens after, well, that's totally in God's hands.
Mm-hmm.
But, I can be certain and feel really, really good that, the pastor just touched today on, we're in God's hands. No one can pluck us out of His hands. No one can pluck us out of His hands. Our decision and our choices is what deters us of whether or not we're going to be with God or not be with God. If you choose to go ahead and thrive on money, wealth, possessions, this, that, well, that's the wide road to destruction right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the wide road to destruction the Bible talks about. Narrow is the road that leads to righteousness, and very few are going to find it.
Mm-hmm.
Very few will find it.
So you kind of just said this, but I'll ask you just to ask. What advice would you give the world, more importantly, I guess you could say the younger generation, and not, accept the Lord and Savior, life or advice for just living right now, in this realm? What advice would you give someone?
I will not only just give someone, I'll give all, young, old, in between, half in between, whether you are mentally retarded, not retarded, this, that, all people. We are all alike, both spiritual and in flesh.
Mm-hmm.
We are identical. There is no deviation from that. You're not above me. I'm not above you. You're not below me, and I'm not below you.
Mm-hmm.
We are equal on this whole account. The best I could advise to give the whole entire world right now is to repent of your sins, turn away, acknowledge the Father in heaven and what He had done. He sent His only Son as a ransom for us, walked in flesh, got beat. I think it was Isaiah or Jeremiah, whichever one. Don't quote me on it because I don't want to take God's word out of text. But, it's quoted in Isaiah that He was unrecognizable. I mean, they tore at Him, they lashed at Him, beat Him, slapped Him around ever since Gethsemane, when He was in the Garden of Gethsemane praying. When Judas Iscariot came up with the soldiers and handed Him over. And the best thing I can tell the world is that this is not a storybook of fairy tale. This is what happens. The end. The end is coming.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that I've spoke about, just even in brief, is going to happen, whether we want it to or not, because there's not a doggone thing we're going to do to change what God's already got planned from before the foundations of this earth. Is to acknowledge what Christ did for all of us, and to put away and put aside the selfishness, the hate, the bitterness, your worldly want to be prosperous, graduate to some high educated esteem thing is all facadal. It's just all a facadal makeup of a bunch of BS is what it is. If you're not for Christ, you're not. You're not of anything. If you don't acknowledge what He has done and where you could go, because there's only two places, inevitably, really, when it comes to the end. During judgment, you're going to go one way or the other, and that's it. As far as the world, it's done. It's over with. God's gonna close it up, and there's going to be no more cars. No more trains, this, that, wealth, this. It's all going to be gone. Then what? Now you're facing the Creator. Do you want to face the Creator and tell Him, well, I mean, I really wanted to just be comfortable over here? Well, if you would have asked Him in His name and followed Him without greed, He more than likely would have probably granted it to you.
Yeah.
Through Him, not through yourself or through the world system
Mm-hmm.
of, I got to eat you in order to get promoted so I can have this. That's what's wrong with our world today. Is there's just too much legalities and too many things going on that.
Yeah, I'd say there's a lack of empathy, not sympathy, empathy of not. I just learned this today. Sympathy, we often cross empathy and sympathy in the same thing, but they're completely different. Sympathy is I see you and I feel bad for you, but empathy is I see you and I try my hardest to understand your life and what you've been through and what you've seen and what it's like for you to get up in the morning and have coffee even though your dad beat you when you were a kid, right? Like that doesn't matter, but that has shaped who you are, whether you're black, white, or Asian. Everyone's so different from each other, and we forget that, and we lack the empathy to try to understand what it's like to be someone else. And so when someone hears you rant about Christianity and they don't like Christianity, they turn off. They're like, oh, this guy's a crazy alcoholic talking about whatever, but they don't understand what you've been through and what you've seen and what in your life and your willingness to keep going forward.
And there again, see, it comes right back to that choice. Oh, well, he's just a crazy alcoholic. He's just a Christian now, and he's babbling about this whole thing, what Jim Jones' whole thing or whatever. Yeah. Well, that's fine. He just made a choice. If he chooses not to believe in Christ, well, that's his bag. Yeah. And I feel bad for him. And the only thing I can really do, and the only power I have, is prayer. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing I can do with that guy or female person, this, that, is pray.
Totally.
That's the only power I have. Mm-hmm. And God's given me that power to do that, prayer.
Is that how you've overcome your addictions in life?
Prayer. And here, most recently, lately, big time, because of a DUI I just suffered.
Yeah.
And I'm still going through the court process on that, and that's okay. God's with me on that, and I believe that.
Yeah.
And I wholeheartedly invite him to come along. It's okay. Mm-hmm. It's okay. I love our church. I love our pastor, his family. They mean a lot to me. They really mean a lot to me. There's been a lot of prayers about me up there. A lot of people have prayed for me up there.
And they've done a lot for you, too,
And they have done an awful lot for me,
Like I said, you got a nice setup,
Well,
You're not...
it's okay. It's comfortable.
Yeah.
It's warm and safe. And to me, it's ideal, and it's okay with me. I don't want nothing more than that. I don't want no big fancy house. Now if Christ, when I get to meet him and we have a nice supper up there and I have a mansion, yahoo! Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. I mean, that's a gift from him. That's a gift. That's not a selfish thing coming from me. That's coming from him. Mm-hmm. That's coming from him. That's nothing that I'm striving for. I'm striving to get to heaven for those nice things. I want to meet Isaiah, Job, Abraham, Jesus.
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to give Jesus a hug. Mm-hmm. I would love to be able to give Jesus a hug.
Do you have any tattoos that represent your faith?
No.
No? What are your tattoos about?
Mostly Viking. The Viking state, because I'm from Minnesota.
Oh, Viking? Or
Viking.
Viking.
Yeah, Viking.
I thought you said biking, like, oh.
No, Viking.
Uh-huh.
I'm Norwegian.
Okay.
So a lot of, Vikings came out of the Nords, the whole whatever.
Yeah.
That was just a thing a long time ago. But that's going to stay here, too. When I drop, I'm going to drop like compost,
Yeah.
The real me is going to ascend.
Yeah, so you don't believe in the Nordic gods or
No,
Valhalla?
I believe in the holy God.
Yeah.
The Father, I believe in God.
Uh-huh.
I believe in Jesus. Those are the ones I believe in. Yeah, those are the ones I believe in. There's no other guy, and God warns us about that. God's a very jealous God. He says, "I'll have no other gods before me, for I am a jealous God." And so you really don't want to put Buddha and Allah and all these other ones in place
Uh-huh.
of who He is. He is the great I am. Period.
Do
He
you
is the great I am.
do you think that those religions have value, though,
Well,
somewhat?
maybe to them,
Uh-huh.
but as far as I can see from the Father that I understand, reading the Bible, His Word, well, I have no place to judge. That's not my place. That's His.
Mm-hmm.
That's His thing. Only He can do that, not me. I have no right to
Mm-hmm.
go there. I have no right to go there. That's completely God's thing.
Is there anything else you'd like to do in this realm that not religious related at all? Just anything else? Like, would you like to go to the Netherlands? Would you
No,
like
not
to?
really. I mean, really,
You're
all
pretty
in all,
content with living
yeah,
here.
I'm pretty content. The only thing I'd really like to do from here on out, while I'm still breathing, is have God direct me and show me what my real purpose is in life, besides drinking, drugging, and absorbing self-worth, and striving for things that are just pointless,
Mm-hmm.
just pointless. And that's worldly stuff. There's just really nothing about the world that I really want to invest in anymore now that I really understand the world. I thought it was a neat thing when I was a kid, but then there again, I was a kid and pretty naive at that. At that I didn't know enough yet. I wasn't educated enough.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm a little more educated, and
What about your daughter?
my daughter, I hope and pray that she has a good life and the man that she's with treats her good. And I hope and pray that she is reading
Mm-hmm.
God's Word. I really do. I can only hope and pray about that. But how she lived her life, or what she does from here on out, that's in God's hands.
Mm-hmm.
That's completely in His hands. He made her.
Yeah.
He'll bring her along.
Is there anything else you'd like to share? Anything you'd like to say, or it's in your hands, and it's the podcast is in your hands. You can ask me a question or bring up a topic you want to talk about.
Nah, no real topic. You could pretty much cover everything. I'm just really thankful that you brought me in here, and I considered this little podcast and whatnot. And
Well, we've had an interesting tale. If I can share, you were the first person. Like, you but I would say influenced me to do this, because obviously when I first saw you, you were not in the best shape, and I was like, man, that guy's got to have a story, And so then,
you live enough years, you will have a story.
yeah,
There's no question about it. You're going to add some pages to your book.
totally. And then, the first time I texted you, and then you didn't, or I came down and talked to you, and you said you wanted to, and then you didn't. And then, what we were talking about earlier before we started recording is like how it kind of all synced up for right now, where your niece bailed on you on coffee, and I was gonna interview someone else, and I had it all set up, and then that person bailed on me, and then you walked up to my window here, and you're like, podcast, and it all worked out perfectly, and here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
So it's crazy how things work out.
Isn't it, though?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, sometimes might even be divine.
Yeah.
Might even call it divine.
Well, Tom, thank you for your time.
And thank you very much for your time. How do you like that, bud?